Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 153, and today we're going to be doing battle with Ahri Kennen. And so, Ahri Kennen, it didn't get too much in terms of cards from the new set. We did get one addition from the Darkened Saga Awakening, and that's going to be coming at us from the Vastai and Disciple. It's a 1-1 elusive for 1. If it hits a Nexus Strike, it returns to your hand. The Shaimon Wind is a 2-cost burst spell that draws a card and then puts the Disciple back into play. And so, in my opinion, it's not better than the stuff that already exists. It's not better than Dancing Droplet. Dancing Droplet working fantastically with all of our recalls. It's not better than the Mourned, which is kind of a cheap and free way to get the recalls going while still being aggressive, but it does increase our density of these early recallable cards that we really want, and so I think it fits in better than trying to do stuff like play the Kinku Wayfinder and the likes. It just gives us a lot more reliability in those games to where the deck doesn't come together exactly how we want. And so, I mean, like Ahri Kennen, Ezreal Kennen's kind of popular right now. I tried a bit of Ahri Bard. Wasn't happy with it, but all of the decks are doing kind of the same thing, and we're all looking to prey on the same style of deck. And so, if we have to go up against something like Pirates, we're just going to get murdered, right? Pirates is extremely good against this strategy that we're trying to pull off, and so we don't see too much of Ahri Kennen these days, given that Pirates is the most popular deck. But once you start to move away from that, and you want to, say, look at a deck like Concurrent Timelines, then we find a lot of play patterns that are actually quite favorable for us. I'm not going to go into every matchup in particular, but the idea throughout the course of the game is what we're going to be trying to do is we're going to put a blocker in front of our opponent's play, and then we're going to play a homecoming. And so we'll return our blocker. Ideally, it's going to give us some kind of advantage, whether it's drawing a card from Dancing Droplet or activating our Kennens and Ahris, and then we're going to send back another unit to our opponent's hand. So if you imagine that we're playing against a deck like Concurrent Timelines, and they spend all of their mana on turn 4 on a Combat Cook, and then they spend all of their mana on turn 5 on Trundle, if you put a Droplet in front of that Combat Cook and then Homecoming Trundle back to hand, your opponent just spent a absolute shitload of mana to do absolutely nothing. And so we're really out here trying to prey upon these curve decks, and then we can also kind of push that ideal over a little bit into things like Nasus Kindred, as to where yes, they have a lot more interactivity. They play a lot of Vile Feast kind of cards, but if they're trying to get together a big board full of like Kindreds and then do sacrifice plays involving husks and everything, then we're going to find ourselves in another spot to where Homecoming is quite good. And then it's also a matchup to where a card like Nasus is just straight unplayable. And so this is, going to be a fairly kind of polarized matchup set, but I think we're coming upon a good time and a good space for the likes of Ahri Kennen to be quite powerful. And so Ahri Kennen is the flavor that I've chosen to bring forth. If you want to play Ezreal Kennen or Ahri Bard or whatnot, they're all essentially the same deck. Yes, there's some minor differences between them, but they all have the same kind of idea, and that we're trying to come out here and just abuse the curved decks, and then still have a lot of games against the decks that aren't particularly interactive. And so if you aren't familiar with this flavor in particular, you have kind of like 3 big paths to victory, right? 2 of them are going to involve the Fey Blade Twirler. The Fey Blade Twirler just growing and growing and growing into a gigantic unit. If we're playing against a deck like Timelines, we find ourselves in some spots to where we can just have an empty board, right? We can make the tempo plays with our recalls and some stuns with Kennen and the like, completely shut down our opponent's board and then just kill them with like a 13 attack Blade Twirler. That's kind of path number 1. Path number 2, also involving the Blade Twirler, is giving it bonus attack with the Absolver. And so we can use the Absolver to give the Blade Twirler Overwhelm, have him crush in for big damage. Similar thing, if you need to, you can recall your opponent's blocker if you've used the Absolver and then just punch in for the entire amount of damage. And then the last way that we'll end up killing is through Ahri. And with a flipped Ahri, we can either try to set up these big attacks to where we have a board completely full of elusives and try to hit for 15 or 18 damage through her, or she's another unit that can take advantage of the Absolver. So if we boost her up from 3 to 5 attack, we have a lot of potential to come in and hit for 30. And so those are the kind of like big ways to go about this. The thing that I really want to stress with this deck is, yes, you have a large pile of 1-drops in it, right? We have this really, really aggressive early game looking curve with 6 1 and 2 cost champions, 9 1-drop elusives, the Blade Twirler and the Conspirator, but we're not really an aggressive deck. It's like, yes, it's nice to get in and get some of that early chip damage in. That will be what really determines how quickly we can kill with Ahri, right? The difference between 15 and 16 health for our opponents is quite monumental. So that early game chip damage is important, but we're not an aggro deck. We're not looking to just slam all of our dudes down and send them right into the red zone. It's very important for us to be protective of our early plays and kind of maximize our survivability with the recalls. And so I wanted to call that out real quick. If you aren't exactly familiar with playing this, protecting our units is a little bit more important than just slamming in damage, and we'll oftentimes find spots to where we'll start with like a Kennen or a dancing droplet, and we just don't want to play it on turn 1. We want to wait a little bit, wait until we can get a recall, wait until we can get a Nopify or a Twin Disciplines, and give our units a little bit of protection before we just throw them down, because it can be quite detrimental to either lose a champion or to lose a card like Dancing Droplet that's letting us cycle through our deck. And so that's it. Let's go ahead and get ourselves into battle. You all know what we have to do before the battles begin. We have to go and turn something premium. And I had my eyes set on the Mourned. This is a card that it's been around the game for a while. You know, it's been in the game since like this was before Beyond the Bandlewood, right? This would have been like in the Empires Ascended, and we still haven't turned it premium. I remember actually playing this in Expedition, and so I know it's been around for at least a few months, finally coming out here and getting the premium treatment, and that's good to go. Let's go ahead and get ourselves into battle. And so, yeah, this is one of these decks I feel like it's something that's going to be pretty important for us to play. I made a comment during the kind of seasonals recap as to where, you know, we've only been playing competitive constructed for 5 months or so now. And I feel like I've really missed out on a lot of the muscle memory that you would get from decks like Ahri Kennen, as to where this was like the de facto best deck in the format for a while. It was crushing, and it we just didn't play during then, right? This was a very real deck. If you were a competitive player, you had to be used to it, and we just weren't used to it. And so this wasn't like relevant so much during seasonals, but the onslaught of Nasus decks was, right? And I wasn't super familiar, as I would have liked to have been, playing against a deck like Thresh Nasus or Nasus Kindred, just because we didn't get those reps in like 8 months ago, back when that was one of the big decks of the format. And so, you know, I'm admittedly unfamiliar with this deck. We're not going to be the masters of winning the matchups with this, but it's something that I certainly have to get into my wheelhouse, and something that I need to be prepared to play. All right, we're getting ourselves into a pretty reasonable spot here. We're getting a big Blade Twirler to grow. Opponent shouldn't be able to interact with it too well. And these are the kind of spots I was talking about, as to where we can, you know, reasonably easily get together a big kill with the Blade Twirler. We're not going to be killing anytime soon with it, since opponent has blockers, but we can look to start building up homecoming boards, as to where our opponent needs to just have like one unit, and we can send it back and kill with the Blade Twirler. I'm going to go ahead and just open here. I'm quite okay with this turn if at the end of the day all that happens is we spend 1 mana, or even 0. This is a fantastic place to just get a 3 bank in. I think we'll be able to add the Droplet and then just stop. And those play patterns I was just talking about say how we have here with Gwen, right? This is a fantastic spot. He's not going to be able to add any more units to the board after this attack. Now that he's kind of like exposed his hand, we may find a spot here to where we can actually play a momentous choice and survive a combat, right? If we want to, say, block Gwen with the Blade Twirler and give a point of health, I could see us being quite okay. Or we could look to just add a second Blade Twirler. It's going to be a little bit short on damage, but we will find ourselves in a spot to where we can burst the Shimon Wind onto the board, and then have it Nexus Strike, and then boost both of our Blade Twirlers. So we have some interesting abilities there that can be quite powerful. Here, let's just go ahead and send Gwen back to the hand. And if he wants to follow up with a Ruined Reckoner attack, we're going to have... we can either just take it, right, because it's not that scary anymore, or we could potentially try and kill it. We don't have to worry about dying to something like Atrocity here. I think we can just let this come in, go ahead and get our recall. 8, 9. We're only going to be hitting for like 10 next turn. I think that's okay. We can look to make some Conspirator plays, but we're not going to be able to return a second unit. Where'd you go, Shimon Wind? There we are. We hit Ahri. Ahri's pretty close to lethal here. I feel like we could safely drop her. And then opponent's gonna have to respond in some kind of unfavorable for them way. What's gonna happen is, say like we play Ahri, they play a unit, we get to attack with everything, he has to block both of our big boys, and then we get to punch in for 9, get to... I think that's okay, especially then we can save the deny for next turn. And then if Ahri dies, like if this is something to where he needs to vengeance Ahri, I think we're still going to be okay. So this is one of the weird spots that you'll see with these Ahri attacks. I don't want the Ahri strike to get in the way of these Blade Twirlers, but we do want Ahri to grow our Blade Twirlers. We're just going to have to... Perfect. Like attack like this. He's going to have to block both of our big boys, lose both of his units, and then Ahri... we have a Twin Disciplines, but she'd only be able to punch in for 12 here. Right, that would be... If we... It would be 4, 14. Okay, this is fine. And we don't have to worry about stuff like the Harrowing because we have Deny in hand. I think we're okay here. We can stop the Harrowing, we can stop Atrocity. Let's just bank up some mana and go into the next turn. What you got for us? A Gwen? We don't have great answers to Gwen, but it's going to take her some work. He played a different one as well, so we know he has Thread the Needle, kill an ally to deal damage to his power to an enemy. Excuse me, nothing to really worry about right here, but worth noting that Thread the Needle is active. We should have just played Dancing Droplet, right? If we're going to come out and play recalls, we can just lose the unit. It's not that big of a deal. There's not a ton he can do at this point. I'll just play dudes until we get down to 4. Like both the Dancing Droplets are going to be extremely strong here. This will let us get the Ahri combo rolling through. I can't imagine he has ways to deal with everything here. Quite a bit of stuff, am I right? Good deal, good deal. All right, now Ahri's coming in for 16. And then if we need to, we can always circle back and counterspell the Thread the Needle, but not necessary here. Getting those sweet-ass victories. All right, good job, friends. I'm glad we got a win because I'm. It's tough. Like if the decks that I'm familiar and like to play with, it's a lot easier to just kind of pick up and run with. Like, yes, I played a bunch of practice games with this because I think it's a quite important deck to get into our wheelhouse, but it's certainly not as familiar as, say, just picking up a different flavor of aggro deck. But with hands like this, I'm fine to keep the Mourned, like have something going on in the early game that's on point with our themes, but we need to be finding Dancing Droplets and Ahri's as a means to get some cycle going. You don't want to be out here just like running these units into the opponent and not having any way to churn through your deck. But here, up against Evelyn, I'm more than fine to just go ahead and get a start with the Mourned. We don't have any... we don't have any worries on turn one about losing this unit. They don't have a way to deal with more than a single point of damage. And now we can come into this next turn and start making some decisions. The recall was a perfect draw. Like, I want to get this Dancing Droplet Ahri combo going. This is what lets us churn through our deck and get our recalls going. But I don't want to be losing to like a Vile Feast and a Height Spike, right? That's going to be a pretty powerful combo against what we're trying to do. And so let's just kind of be ready with the recall now. And Hate Spike? Wow, okay. Well, it's not terrible. I would prefer to have that unit, but we're still in a space here to where we can switch over to using Kennen, and then Kennen can start doing Kennen things with the Mark of the Storms, and so not a complete loss for us. Then ideally in this space, this is the kind of deck to where Homecoming should be decent. If he's going really big into Evelyn, then we should have some space to get really good Homecomings. He can put spell shields onto Evelyn, which is going to be slightly awkward, but I think we're good otherwise. So what we have to start watching out for now is if we want to come in and attack next turn, say we want to make this play of Ahri into Kennen, and then opponent blocks the Kennen unit with his 4/3, that's going to kill the Ahri, right? She's going to quick attack and then end up getting killed. We do have the Absolver to protect her if we need to, though. So I'm just going to go ahead and pass here. There is a non-zero chance that we'll want to spend an actual ton of mana this round, but I feel a lot better picking up the Homecoming. Let's see how they spend their mana. If they drop an Evelyn here, then we can have a really big round in terms of doubling up on Kennen and getting these Mark of the Storms going. It's like he's trying to do stuff we don't approve of. And so let's see how we want this to go. We can lead in. I think we'll just end up countering. Well, we don't have to counter both of these, right? The problem you'll run into is if you want to Homecoming away this Kennen, then the Ahri won't shift anymore. And so as it stands, Ahri's going to strike the Husk and then shift over to the right, so she would survive here. But if this Kennen dies, it's not going to work out how we want. So let's just go ahead and Homecoming out Kennen. I think we can realistically just stop at this space. And then if he plays another card, we can look to add in the Absolver. I'd prefer to not have to spend cards this turn, I think. So how does this end? We're going to have our Ahri. Everything else is going to bounce back. Okay, that's fine. 2 recalls away from an Ahri flip. You break that wind, Kennen. You break it good. Alright, not worried about Bark Beast. We'll get the domination off the board. We've got to play these Mark of the Storms at some point, and so I think this is fine. There's a pretty good chance that we won't be playing any more Kennens, and so spreading them out doesn't seem that super ideal. What do we got? Another Vora. Shura. We can take 8 damage this turn if we have to. I'm not entirely opposed to just blocking Vora with Kennen. Like, he's pretty done at this point, I do believe. It's like, how close are we getting to an elusive kill? We need, we need the flip, which is gonna be. So we draw Blade Twirler, which is gonna get us like a little short in terms of killing with Ahri. For our attack next turn, we can hit with the single copy of Mourned. That'll get a recall, and then we can have Ahri recall something else to get her chain attack running across the board. Or, I mean, with the Blade Twirler Absolver, we can win with that as well. We'll have the 8 mana to do all of this if we want. Alright, so we would want it to look like this. I believe this gets our Ahri recalling everything. Yeah. And then if he does something to interact, like with this Blade Twirler down here to the end, I think it's okay. We can still get the Absolvers going. Oh shit, she's not going to be flipped yet, though. Did we mess that up? Our Ahri cycling all the way to the end. Yeah, I think we messed that up. Says it's going to take him to 1 and clear out his board. If he wants to play another card. Oh no, we're still boned. We can't stop it all. I shouldn't say we're boned. We still have. We're still going to be in a pretty decent spot this game. We just came out a little bit short on the damage. I was thinking we were going to have the flipped Absolver, and it wasn't the case. Alright, but we've taken them down to 1. Have a little bit of protection and an Opify, so hopefully we'll be okay here. He's going to need a big, elusive Evelyn or something. That won't even do anything.
Don't worry, it's not my first time.
Oh, he did come up with the elusive Husk, though. That's a way to get in there and cause some problems.
Mind if I slip into something a little more painful?
I don't do meditation.
So I can't remember if this is the kind of deck that plays Atrocity. Right, I don't think we can quite give up our board to the Camaveran soldiers here, but we'll see. We'll see if we're dead to Atrocity. I don't remember if they play it or not. Well, sometimes it just doesn't matter, right?
If you can.
Pick on someone your own speed.
Got him. So there's the power of the deck, right? Our play, far from perfect. Our victories still rolling right in.
Naturally.
All right. Gotta hydrate for this one. Now we're ready. All right, up against the Sundisk. I'm curious if the Sundisk, how frequently it's going to start making a return as the format starts to slow down. I'd imagine the Sundisk just annihilates the timelines decks. I could be wrong on that, but kind of strikes me as something that would happen. So this is a reasonable enough start. We have lots of interactivity and combos here. I could see an argument for not hanging on to the Blade Twirler, but I like a lot of this start because the Sundisk is just so bad at interacting with what we're presenting that I feel pretty safe in just being able to throw our stuff down. So they shouldn't have anything here to mess with Ahri. All of their units tend to be too small. The thing we'll eventually have to worry about with this deck is running into quicksands, but at the current point in time, we have a lot to build up to, and are not entirely worried about it right now. If he passes, we can pass. Okay, and so I'm leaning towards coming in and just starting to build up Kennen. The downside here is I like to sometimes play against the Sundisk in a way that lets us just prevent their board from building up, but I think we need to be getting a little bit more aggression in this match than just letting them do their thing at will.
Here's our chance.
I am light. I break the wind. The forest surrounds us.
We shouldn't be preemptively hitting this Devout, right? I think we can go ahead and swing in. It's big enough to stop our Ahri stuff, but we want to take it down with Mark of the Storms. The downside here would be as if he has a... Ooh, where is the quicksand? The downside would be if he has a Rite of Negation. Don't have to worry about it. Kennen can go. He's done his work. We're going to take down the Rockhopper and protect our Ahri here. All right, and so I mean, we've punched in for pretty healthy amounts of damage. This is the kind of space to where we can still just outright win the game without Ahri, right? We can maybe kill him with 2 attacks if we get the Dancing Droplets and the Conspirators and everyone down. Just a big collection of elusive units that he probably can't interact with.
Stay safe. I'll take it from here.
Looking to just take all this damage. We did pick up a Homecoming, but I think I would prefer to save it for something like Xerath. We could make an argument to prevent some of this health with the Blade Twirler. Maybe this is an okay spot for it. It does open us up to opponent playing a sacrifice a landmark, deal 4 damage thing. But it's not something I feel like we ultimately need to worry about right now. So let's let that one go. And then one thing to always remember against the Sundisk is Homecoming will return landmarks. And so we do have the opportunity just to send the Sundisk back to his hand if he starts being overly clever on us. So if we get one more recall, we can flip our Ahri. I'm not entirely opposed to just going for that now. It makes her big enough to survive all of these other combats. And so the concerning piece would be as if he has that landmark destruction thing, right? Which we can technically homecoming out of. Let me see. He's gonna have to react at some point, right?
Here's our chance.
Alright, this is enough to get an Ahri flip, but we need a little bit more width to close out the game. Are we okay with just going for it? Right? Just trying to get the win right now? Say he kills Ahri with the destruction spell. Can we still win with our elusives? And I think it's probably just worth going for. This is the way we need to do, right? Oh, that seems so greedy. if he has a quicksand, that just turns out so bad.
Can you hear your heartbeat?
Yeah, just the one damage short's a terrible place to be. I think it's okay. We can come back and replay some of these cheaper units next turn. Just if he has the second quicksand, we're gonna have a problem. This is where I was talking about getting some of that little bit of early game chip damage can be enough to fix these turns like this. This would have felt so much better if we just had a bunch of an easier lethal, I should say. But I think we're still in pretty good shape. We're chunking in pretty good damage, and then we get to still threaten lethals with our elusives. Like, he has to do quite a bit of work to close this game out without the Sun Disk. And if we have a lot of ways to try and interact with his Sun Disk, then we should hopefully be causing him problems.
See what I've learned? Oh, it's on.
He looks like he's just trying to clear space on his board, but like this definitely feels like a kind of space to where we can look to switch to killing with Homecoming. And we might be able to actually get Blade Twirler damage in now. So what's his angle here? He's going to want to add Zerath to the board. He has to get something on the board right now, or we're just going to kill him with Homecoming. Yep. Okay, that should do it.
I dare you.
Get the deny while we were at it.
I don't do meditation.
Got him. All right, GG. Both fun and interactive, right? But it's the way the meta starts to shape up. At least not all the time, some of the time, right? We weren't seeing metas like this a few patches ago when Talia Lysandra was busy being the real deal. But as I think the interesting thing here with the terms of Ahri Kennen is the addition of I think Kane Gwen. I'm thinking if we want to hang on to the Nopify, like we need a little bit more going in our early game here. Let's hang on to one Blade Tiller, one Arlie, look for a 1-drop. But you know, if your game plan is to say put an equipment on a unit, right? That really just lends itself to a go tall style format, and things that really get crushed by putting Kennons on the board and getting the stuns and playing cards like Homecoming. If you want to play a one cost card and the like Shurima artifact, the Shurima equipment, right? And then you play another unit, and then you spend the 3 mana to put that equipment onto something. It just opens up to so many huge tempo plays, to where decks like this can really thrive. And so I think the meta then starts to shift into these spots to where we always classically talk about it as having elusives, overwhelms, or rallies. We're certainly playing elusives here, but it'll be interesting to see if that's how the format starts to adapt as decks like Ahri Kennen and Ezreal Kennen are starting to do a bit of work into the meta, and then also decks like Nami, Ionia are kind of making a dent as well. And they all have this kind of like same function to where they just flood the board with shit and stall until they get a big combo turn. And you really have to be able to attack twice or attack through or attack around everything that they're doing. All right, I think this is all okay though. We're going to start popping off with a strong turn next turn. Take a 7 hit. That's a little scary, but we're about to get going with this Ahri and the Blade Twirlers, and he's going to have to just start giving up board pretty heavily. Sure. It's unfortunate to lose a unit, but our big ones are still intact. We need the Droplet and the Ahri, because our hand here is pretty awkward, right? We need to just get some cycle going.
2 steps into moonlight.
A little bit heavy in the combat tricks for our current needs. He's doing something not cool. Really don't approve. Don't approve of you doing that, my dude.
Now who's got the upper hand?
I think we're still good to replay Ahri, though.
Don't let the fluffy tails fool ya.
Oh.
We're going to have to like spend the mana at some point. And so I think this is a decent enough spot to do it. Right, he's completely tapped out. I guess she could die to a hate spike, but I feel like if he had a hate spike, he would have played it previously. Right, on the turn that he did double Vile Feast, if he could have Vile Feasted the Droplet and then hate spiked Ahri, he would have completely gone for it. And so I think she should be safe from his 1 mana. Now he's down to 2 cards, and we're in this spot to where we can block with the Droplet and then Homecoming a unit away. Like, we should be pretty safe against what he's doing. And Kane. Sure.
Yes, yours.
Kane is a fantastic target for a Homecoming. Just say I'd love to send that 5-cost unit right back to your hand. So what I'm looking to do here is I want to block the Keeper with our Blade Twirler. I want to block his unit way out to the left with our Dancing Droplet, and then I'm going to Homecoming back Kane. Looks like we should only be taking 2 damage here. And that'll give us some of the much needed cycle to try and get out of these problems.
Dare you.
Ahri's still pretty far away from flipping. We got a lot of work to do, but
Let's test.
things are going. Things are happening. All right. Kennen shows up to the party. Not exactly what we're looking for. Still, I still just want some more card draw. That's a little scary with him picking up the second cane as well, right? Is that what that animation just was? He gets the second cane in his hand because gives him access to the flip thing, whatever it's called, Shadow Step. We can Nopeify a Shadow Step, but still a little worrisome.
I have mastered the rain, lightning, and cloud styles.
Right. Bringing in the scouts, we better block this one, right? We have a decent homecoming here if we want, though. Like, do we have a couple of options, right? We can either homecoming with the Droplet or with the Kennen. We may need to do it with the Kennen just to get a stun on the Defector, but I just don't feel like it matters that much. We're going to be able to pull off the same thing on this next go-around to where we
Here's our chance.
we make a homecoming with the Tellstones and then send Kane back to his hand to block his Hallowed unit over to the left. All feels pretty safe to me. Maybe we should be adding this second Droplet, but with the 9 mana, we do have the Tellstones, the Nopeify, and the Absolver if we need to get the full round of protection. Has he got a mana yet? He's still got 5. Okay. Check out that Kennen animation. He's ready for battle now. Pretty sure we're just going to throw him away, but... Poor Kennen. Poor Kennen. I mean, this isn't really much damage coming in from the Spiderling. I just assumed at this point we were taking like 1,000,000 from the Spiderlings, but not quite. Come in here, we have to bounce Kane. I'm trying to decide if we can ever end up with a lethal next turn, right? If we send Kane back and then we try and get kills with our Blade Twirler. The Blade Twirler is probably going to be quite a bit short of 18. Let's just throw away our non-elusive units, I think.
Want to see these moves up close?
So if we want to come in and do something like this, then homecoming back to Kane, he'll still have the Spiderling. We aren't losing any elusives. And then we can try and kill with the Absolvers next turn. I think I like this. Homecoming. Droplet into Kane. So now he can't Shadow Step either. That one wasn't on my radar. Uh-oh. We're gonna struggle now. I thought we would be completely safe. Ew, I want our Blade Twirler back. That's not good. That's not good. We needed 10 mana there, not 9. Alright, that's probably going to be enough to ace us, but he's got quite a bit of work he has to do. That's only expecting to need to hit the Shadow Step. Oh, Shadow Step costs 4. I guess that's worth realizing as well. Had no Nopeifys for that dum-dum. All right, let's come in and draw some cards. We gotta get something going, right? Is he thinking about doing the Cane Smash into our Conspirator? This looks like it's going to be something unfriendly. Okay. Yes, quick attack. I was starting to like go through the ideas of how many absolvers that we can play and see if we can't get a finish. Oh my god. Okay. Some pretty solid top decks coming out of that. Are we just dead to this? Coming in for 8. Alright. We could have healed through 1, but it's pretty much over at that point. Damn, that was tough. That was some real good hits right off the top. But an Ahri Kennen master probably would have navigated that one a little better. we may be the best player in the world according to FTPbus.com, but I'll let someone else have the title as best Ahri Kennen player in the world. We'll take the full mulligan here. I don't really want to be starting with these disciples. They let us get some of the deck going here in the early game, but this isn't what I'm really wanting to start with. I want the droplets and the Ahris and the good recall stuff. This is just it's essentially filler. And so I'm not like, ooh yeah, I want to start with this disciple. It just doesn't do enough. Now, how greedy can we get here? Trundle Caitlyn tends to not play a bunch of removal, and so I think there's a good chance we can just start bringing in the elusive angle here and just swing for a bunch of damage, right? He's going to come out here and just start playing a bunch of crappy mid-rangey units, and I don't think he's going to be able to stop us. Like Mystic Shot of Dan. Oh, he did just pick up a timeline. It's good for you. But right, this should kind of showcase the play patterns I was talking about against this deck, though. They're going to, play a 3-cost dude here. It's gonna equip, and they're gonna look all big and everything. We can take the damage this turn, not worry about it too much. But then on his next attack, we can block his 4-cost unit and his 5-cost unit with a Dancing Droplet and a Homecoming, and he's just not doing a ton of damage. And so we should be pretty safe for the most part. So we'll take 8 here. Continue on with our elusives. We do need to bank up a bit of mana, but I think this is okay. Just thinking about doing something mean. We do need to draw a bit of our deck, though. We haven't... Oh, Senna's everywhere. We don't have the big combo pieces flowing through just yet. Kennen's quite useful if we get to drop him. That's probably what we're going to have to look towards here.
I dropped everything.
All right, Ahri's turning up now.
I have studied every fighting manual. Missed a chance to run.
All right, so yeah, we need to get a little bit invested with this board. I think we want to block with Kennen out of this. We want to do a Homecoming with Kennen onto what's her name here? Not taking a ton of damage at this point. I feel like that's probably a reasonable place to stop. I definitely want to save our Momentous Choice. Well, our Momentous Choice isn't going to protect Kennen, right? If he has a Mystic Shot, they tend to play like 1 or 2 beams, 1 or 2 Mystic Shots, 1 or 2 Aftershocks, and so if he has an answer to Kennen, he's just going to get killed. So I think that's okay. Let's just get this elusive off of the board. Alright, I think I'm on board with that. Sure. Pretty painful.
There's always a way out.
I think you're stuck just letting that essentially happen, though, right? The amount of fast speed removal they play is extremely low, and he's making those attacks literally 100% of the time. So I think that's just kind of is an is what it is spot. Maybe taking down that elusive wasn't worth it, right? If we knew that we had Ahri in hand and we were trying to punch in for like 15 with Ahri here, but I think we would still be short on this turn.
I'll see all this world has to offer.
The trolls are going to war!
Okay, he brings in Trundle. We don't want to recall the entirety of our board here. That's a little bit much. Okay to hit with the Disciple. Right, let's just stop here. It doesn't seem like he has a removal spell, but if he does, it is way problematic. Now, I want these two to hit. This is going to flip our Ahri, and then I don't think we want the Conspirator to hit either, just the Droplet. So we'll have 2 units on board. We'll have a free Dancing Droplet in hand. We can burst the Vestai and Disciple onto the board next turn if we need to. So I think we're okay here. And then we'll just look to win on the next turn with a big elusive Ahri hit.
I live for those who do not.
Okay.
Well, what have we here?
All right, Caitlin comes to the party. Okay, so that's the fairly easy one. We'll just send Trundle back to hand this turn with the Homecoming. Let's see. So let's like not lose a unit if we can.
Don't want any trouble.
We do want to come out and just block everything. Then we'll protect the Ahri and the Conspirator. All right, so assuming this all goes to plan here, this should let us replay the Dancing Droplet, play the Mourned, burst the Shimon Wind onto the board next turn, and then just get a big open attack for lethal. Okay. We still have a lot of elusives here.
Hide for a moment, run forever.
All right, let's get him, Kennen.
Mastered the rain, lightning, and cloud styles.
Can we do it? Do we have enough? Not worried about an equipped Caitlyn. He's going to hit us with a flashbang, isn't he? Whew, we survived it? Okay. That's the thing one must always worry about.
Not so fast.
3 sisters. Okay. It's going to leave us 1 short. We don't play equipments in our deck, so we can't double up with Momentous Choice. Okay. What scary little items you picking up? 5/5 Overwhelm. That's a non-zero amount of scary. Just what the doctor ordered. Alright, so the thing that worries me with next turn is he's got the iceberg in hand, the ice pillar, and it's so easy for it to just hit hit an 8/8. There's the 8/8 overwhelm that you can hit with the ice pillar as well. And we don't have any immediate answers to it. Yeah, Captain Farron's the same deal. And so can't quite get our Kennen down fast enough to stop it, but he is a damage short of killing us with the Defector. We do have this angle though, right? just kill him with Kennen. Let's not miss the forest for all the trees out here. Nice. Good job, fam. Nice little victory. Sometimes the littlest victories feel like the biggest. That's deep, am I right? That's pretty deep right there. I hope you take that one, slam it in your brain piece, and analyze it a little bit. Oh, so I am reminded our draft video, our week 2 of the draft league, it's out there. That should have come up yesterday. I don't entirely remember how long the season is, if it's 4 weeks or 5 weeks and then to a top cut, but week 2's out there. You can watch us play that limited format that everyone misses so much. All right, on to the next one, though. I worry about playing against Nami Nora with the likes of Fey Blade Tool earlier. It feels like it's always just going to run into a blocker, but it also feels like something that should just get to sit on the board indefinitely and cause problems. And so maybe we just get rid of the Kennen, right? He's not spectacular with this start. Looks a little better. Alright, so we'll sequence this way. We'll lead in with the Mourned. We'll get to play the Blade Twirler next turn. We'll get to do the thing to where the Mourned strikes first. Then the Blade Twirler becomes a 3/3. He shouldn't be able to stop it with any unit that he plays, so we don't have to worry about the Blade Twirler taking damage and then dying to a Pokey Stick or something. The other upside to this is it does let us protect our Droplet a little bit. There's no real reason to just come out and drop it on the first turn, but if opponent has Pokey Sticks or Make It Rains or whatever, then we want to be able to protect the Droplet. I'm going to say that was probably a pretty good hit onto the Recall +2 cost. Now, I think we want to just wait until the next turn to try and go for a Droplet, especially since he's played Conchologist, and there's a pretty good shot that he's going to have like a single damage, like a group shot or whatever. Just tons and tons of ways for him to deal 1 now. Straight up playing heavy metal. I feel you. We've been doing a bit of that.
Time for a leap of faith.
I live for those who do not.
And so I think this illustrates a lot of what I talk about with this format and having to go around and stuff. It's very easy if you want to think of a deck like Timelines to build this giant unit like we're getting right now with the Fey Blade Twirler. Very easy to just shove a unit in front of it over and over again and not take any damage. You have to have the ways to make this elusive or have overwhelm or rally if that's going to be your key, path to victory. We don't have to count on these Blade Twirlers because we have all these elusives and everything else to kind of account for it. But, if you're playing elites, right? If you're playing something that just puts big units on the board, it's quite a worry.
Nature does not mourn.
This doesn't seem like the best spot in the world for Nora. She does not want to face down the elusives. Let's actually get a second Blade Twirler down. It's going to make him continue to put units on the board. Oh, this shit. How fast can we send this back? Can Droplet. He shouldn't have too much that he can do this turn. I do want to just immediately send this Shelf Hulk back, though. Make him spend that mana. Maybe it was too greedy to not just go for it immediately. We'll just concede here in a minute. I hate playing against this deck. It just feels like a giant waste of time. If they get moving with this, we'll just concede. Okay, can't stop a recall. I really don't like the decks like this exist. If you've caught the excessive amount of bitching that comes from the concurrent timelines, the Shelf Folk is another card in the same space as the timelines, as to where it doesn't really have much business being a constructed quality card. This is a card that should be limited to the lands of the normal queues and the Path of Champions, but it does sneak its way into constructed every once in a while. I'm still not entirely sure how this stupid-ass card actually wins a game, but I do know that it's absolutely no fun to play against, and so I'm more than happy to see it go away. Burblefish, we need to dig to an Absolver or an Ahri.
Underestimate. I dare you.
There's a fresh Tellstones to try and send the Shelf Folk back. Doesn't look like it's going to totally matter since he dropped Nami.
Embrace the current or be swept away.
I think we're still just going to be a little bit too slow here.
Now who's got the upper hand?
It's okay. We'll go into the next turn and see if we draw an Absolver, and if we don't, we'll call it a day. Not quite time for you, Kennen. I saw you light up here like you were excited to come down on the board. It's not the time though. Okay. GG, I guess. It's just it's the way I don't feel like it happens with every game. I feel like Magic has really gotten to the space to where they've gotten, kind of good about these what I would call casual cards. Not being casual enough that they're still fun for Commander and everything, but they aren't quite what breaks through into Constructed. When I was talking in our previous video about concurrent timelines, I think it's exactly a card like Pyrostatic Pillar, and then probably what Magic ran into with Luris, to where these are cards that seem like they should just be kind of casual things that you put in your commander deck. I guess Lurrus is really intended to be bringing commander to constructed, but they just turned out to be abysmal in terms of the level of fun people were having, and so that's how I feel about concurrent timelines. I get the idea to where it's cute. Like I could see where someone is going, oh boy, this card is fun, but a card like that has no business being in constructed, and then the same thing applies to the fish or the Shellfolk, whatever it's called. The card that I like to describe as being kind of on point but something to worry about is Jay Madara. The thing that whenever you target it, you get to draw a card. That's just ripe and asking for abuse, and it's basically one card away from getting nerfed. Right? It's going to need just like the wrong card printed one time, and then it's just going to be absurd, and we're just going to have to wait and see how long it takes Riot to ban it, or to nerf it or change it, so that that's not something to worry about. But they're definitely real problems. All right, here we have to get on board. We have to be blocking this stuff. We can't be queued against this aggro Ziggs deck. And so we just have to give up our units where we can. So blocks like this seem fine. We can block the Stone Stackers, recall our Kennen, and then that will prevent the point of impact damage. And we can start trying to use Mark of the Storms to take down the Stone Stackers. So the thing I think we'll be looking for here is if we can continue to protect Kennen from a Blade's Edge, right? They should have lots of 1 damage sources, Blade's Edge and the like, and so our Kennens, our Blade Twirlers, we need to watch out for them with the momentous choice as much as we can. I think I'm okay with Kennen just dying, right? We're kind of out of recalls at this point. We can't get a lot going with him, but I think we need to manage our Blade Twirler. He at least forces our opponent to interact with it every turn.
Nature does not mourn. I will.
Well, he can't get us with Katarina at this point. He can still play a pokey stick. So let's see what he's up to.
Break the silence.
He'd be like, stress defense. Oh, he doesn't block? Oh, that's a bold move. That looks like a lethal now. Get it? All right, not bad. Not bad. You got to block there. That's something we learned years ago. If you're counting on your spell to save you, you have to just throw that blocker out there, and at least you have a you can make more decisions in the future if you're not dead. And so losing your conchologist there isn't ideal, but if you lose it, if you don't put the block out there and something happens, you're just dead. And so, all right, get ourselves into that final battle. I'm excited. Hope you're excited. We have the old positive win rate with Ahri Kennen here. Feels good. On to Jack's Vi, another timelines deck, another spot to where we're reasonably okay with running into their strategy, where we can bounce stuff and stun and do homecomings. See if he's got that turn 1 timelines. Hate this card so much. Again, I feel like whenever I get to talking about these, I just feel salty. But it's not entirely the case. I feel like there's... Can we get Kennen down here? I don't think we ever just trade for the Forge Chief, but I would like to kill it. If we're not going to trade, he is just going to soak up a bunch of mana. I think that's fine. But the way I describe the cards like this, at least in terms of concurrent timelines in its current state, are in terms of Troop of Elnix, right? The way that I described Troop of Elnix back when it used to search 10 cards instead of 6 was that what scenarios happen during the course of gameplay to where both players are having fun when Troop of Elnix hit the board. And there's not a ton, right? So let's say you play Troop of Elnix and then you hit like 3. Your opponent just kind of immediately concedes the game, and that's no fun. And so the next kind of step being is, oh shit, I thought we were just going to outright win that. I didn't do those mathematics. The next step is going to be, okay, what happens if I play the Troop of Elnix and miss? Then it's like, I don't have any fun. And so the happy case and the sad case have both happened and neither player is having fun. What's the case here kind of in the middle to where a player is having fun? And so you play the troop and hit another troop. So your opponent gets like 6 stats for 5 mana. Maybe that's not so bad. So you say you play you play a troop and hit a Bull Elnic. And that's like 15 stats for 5 mana. That's pretty good. That doesn't sound like awesome, but if that's the big build around thing for your deck, maybe that's not so bad. And then anything beyond that 15 stats just feels absurd. And so there's just like such a tight window of where the card feels kind of enjoyable for both players that it doesn't quite come together as to where it feels like it should be a fun card. And I feel like whoever put that 6 stat mark or the 6 card thing on there kind of nailed it in terms of it still being kind of relevant and like Path of Champions, but not relevant enough to where you're playing it in your Ezreal deck. And so I kind of like stop and say like, okay, well, at what point does timelines feel like it's out of that space to where the timelines feels like it's not just horrible for everyone involved, right? It's not as bad, I think, if you just don't draw it. Like, that doesn't really apply. But it never has those cases to where, say, like, you played the troop and then the troop just doesn't hit anything, right? Because you always just hit a unit. You play units in the game. And so it's like that case just straight up doesn't exist. But where are those kind of like middle ground cases that don't feel terrible for everyone involved? And I don't think that those really exist. It just involves your opponent not playing cards. And so it just doesn't happen. So I don't know. I'm getting a little rambly with it, but I think I'm right as usual. As usual, I'm pretty sure we're right. All right, back to this game. I've kind of let this slip away from me a little bit. I think we can still be in an okay spot here, and just get an elusive kill. We haven't hit on a lot of our card advantage-y kind of pieces outside of just recalling this Kennen over and over again. We could have taken this a different angle and just started bouncing the droplets over and over again. There is some merit to it. I assumed that we were just going to be in a spot to where we could kill all of their units every turn because they haven't played a concurrent timelines. So I still think that we may be in a spot to where we just kill them with elusives. Do we need to get this absolver flip in though? So let's stop and like do a little bit of that finger math everyone loves. We can do 6 with our conspirators, 7, 8 with the droplets, 9, 10, 11, 12 with the absolver, 13 with the momentous choice. We need to pick up 1 point of damage somewhere. I think we probably still need to just be flipping this Kennen. We can fairly safely take a 7 hit here. And then we can also just trade away Kennen at this point. I'm really just wanting to add Kennen so that we can get a... Oh my god, he hit a scout. So that we can hit the absolver. What the fuck? This is summoning sand soldiers? Oh my god, at least we can block and deal with that a little bit. Okay. So this is going to be 7 damage coming in, and we block the Sandcrafter, only fall to 1. Okay. He has to attack. Oh, this Jack's going to flip, though. Yeah, Jack's going to flip. That's still Exacties? What has Overwhelm? Oh, Jax gets Overwhelmed. We need to do this. Okay. Alright, so we just got to do a little bit of top deck in here and everything will be fine. Nothing could go wrong. We just need to draw the perfect elusive.
And you know what? Also for me.
Kinda brutal. It's like Alright, we're getting here. We're right at the end. Let's see if we can close this down. Are you gonna flip? No? You gotta do something.
I'll see all this world has to offer.
We're 1 recall short, but we can play the Absolvers and maybe he makes a weird block with Ahri. This one maybe should have been in reach. I know I got kind of into conversation mode there at the beginning, and I missed out on I missed out on that Kennen block directly into a 3 attack unit. That happens sometimes when you get to talking, but that was this one's on me. This one's on me. We might be able to pull something off here if we hit a homecoming. We need to be able to recall back the Jax, and so if he gets clever with his attacks here, we have some opportunities.
You call that sneaky?
I guess the Jax is kind of small. Twin Disciplines? Maybe. Maybe that buys us the time. I mean, he only has the 1 Overwhelm unit, right? We just need to not die. We can take a Sand Soldier hit, and then we have some blockers. So maybe we're okay. Oh, he's bringing it. Okay. Alright, so our safe one is going to be here onto Jax. Let's go ahead and give you some health. We need to preserve 1 elusive, if we can. Protect that Conspirator. Get a block out here. Oh shit, Jax is huge. Oh shit, I was lining this up to block this 4 health thing. Now we've kind of fucked up our Ahri. Maybe it's still okay if we keep enough...
You call that sneaky?
Gotta spend our Absolver too. Messed this Ahri up, I think. Well, we would have been getting boomed by the Jax either way. Can we protect any of our other units in this combat? Just get out of this with 2 elusives instead of 1? I don't think so. Can do this. Oh, this was our thing, right? This was our problem. We should have put the extra +1 health onto Ahri. Then we would have still had Ahri for next turn, and then if we drew any elusive unit, we'd have the opportunity to win the game. We're still in it. Nothing's coming to mind as to what we could actually draw here, but yeah, this one's done. This one's done. If if I hadn't lost my train of thought and been doing been bitching about concurrent timelines and noticed that I was attacking my Kennen and do a 3 health unit, that would have been a different story. But nonetheless, you can still see everything that I was wanting to showcase here, right? This is an exceptionally good deck against all the timelines things. Even in that last game, to where things went wrong with that Kennen, right? We completely just obliterated our Kennen and had to recall poorly, right? The idea with what we wanted to do in that last game was just block with Kennen somewhere else and then recall. And so we get to prevent all that extra damage. Since I made a shitty attack, we had to kind of cut things short and didn't get to prevent any of the damage. And as you can see right there at the very end, those couple of points of damage were critical. But you can still see the very easy and obvious misplays being course corrected and those matchups being quite good. And again, I mentioned I'm by no means a seasoned Ahri Kennen player. I just played Expedition back when Ahri Kennen was in its Hey I Need Nerf days, and those were that just wasn't a deck in Expedition. Those were some of the worst champions in the game, and so I don't have super amounts of experience with this. But even with my limited amount of experience with a deck that isn't very straightforward in how to play and has a bunch of weird and awkward play patterns to it, we put together a pretty good win rate and had a pretty easy time getting there, just playing poorly and piecing together what the deck is kind of capable of doing. And so it's a very powerful thing right now. And so which one is better, either Ahri Kennen or Ezreal Kennen? I don't know. I don't really have much desire to play Ezreal Kennen. I like getting in here with the elusives and stuff. But this kind of idea of a deck is something that you're going to have to be familiar with in this upcoming format. The Ahri Kennens, the Ezreal Kennens, the Shellfolk-based deck that we just saw, that's in the flavor of Nami. But all these decks are doing the same thing, right? They're just going to play a bunch of shitty blockers, and then they're going to cycle through their deck and then try and pull off some kind of big combo turn. And our combo turn just involves big attacks with Ahri. The Ezreal deck is winning with his ability, but it's kind of the same idea. Nami is going to flood the board and then give her board like +80/+80. These are all the same deck, essentially. Yes, the play patterns are different. The strategies are slightly different, but they're stalling the board with garbage units. They're playing some tempo, digging through their deck, and then having a giant OTK-esque turn after they've drained you out of your resources. And so you have to be kind of ready for this. I think decks like Pirates are finally going to start to slide out of the meta. The Pirates is good against Ahri Kennen, but it is bad against what I think it's just going to take a little bit of time before Eye of the Dragon starts to kind of take over a little bit. It plays fantastically in that other Ionia deck style. And I think it's going to start to chip away at the Pirates, and then I think you have to just be ready for that. If you're starting to play these more kind of mid-rangey, bruisery style decks, you have to have overwhelms, you have to have elusives, or you have to have rallies. And so go ahead and get ready for it. But it feels like a good time to play Ahri Kennen if you're wanting to jump ahead of the meta, beat up on the timelines decks a little bit, and still have a pretty reasonable shot against the non-Pirates decks of the format. So it should be a pretty good ladder climber, a pretty good deck to take to the gauntlet as well. And so that is going to do it for us today. I hope your Ahris are elusive as mine. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way. Had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.